You're listening to continuing coverage in the suitcase murder, the trial of Sarah Boone, from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. Now, back to the courtroom.
I'm going to show you identification, defense identification S. See if you recognize that photograph.
I do.
Is that your hand?
Yes.
Is that your blood on your hand?
Yes, it is.
Is that you standing, looks like in a room with flip-flops?
This is in the kitchen at Brian's house.
Okay, what happened there?
So George was very drunk, and I wanted to leave, and he's notorious for taking my car keys and putting them around his neck and my phone in his crotch area and telling me to come get them. And I really wanted to leave because of how drunk, and I knew the escalation of his anger. I didn't want to be there when it was at its peak. So I tried to take my keys from around him because he kept taunting me to take my keys, come get your keys. And so I attempted to go and get my keys. And so he ended up getting a butcher knife. And I had an opportunity to call Brian to come and help me, to please come pick me up, to come get me. And of course, he brings my son with him. And so I'm in the parking lot asking Brian to please help me get my car keys away from him, and there's neighbors, and it's a scene at this point. And George comes to the doorway of my townhome wielding the butcher knife, saying that, do I curse?
Yeah.
That no one's going to take her fucking keys, no one's going to fucking come into this house, and he's waving the butcher knife. And I walked up to him, and I just wanted to leave. And my little son, who was, I believe, 7 or 8 at the time, just is screaming, give mommy her keys, give mommy her keys, let her leave. Brian was even trying to negotiate with him, saying, please, you know she'll come back, just let her leave. So I went up to try and take the keys from him, and he was pulling on them, and I ended up pulling harder. And he pulled them back again to try to pull me in the house, and I pulled them even harder, and it ripped my finger. And at one point, I had lost the fingernail, and the tip of my pinky was severely gashed.
Well, Judge, I'd like to offer this for the evidence.
Okay.
What was it pre-marked as, Counselor?
Looks like S, but not recorded.
What was pre-marked as defense S will be received into evidence without objection as defense 4.
Ms. Boone, for the jury's sake, is this the picture you were referring to? Is that the nail, or is it on? Still on?
I believe so, yes.
Now I'm showing you a composite identification L, 2 photographs. Can you look at those photographs and tell the jury what they are?
I wanted to eat, and while he was drinking, went and made myself, as quickly as I possibly could, a microwave bowl of, I believe it was broccoli and cheddar soup. And I didn't get it out enough time, and he came up behind me and he slapped it out of my hand. And it was a 2nd-degree burn. I went to the hospital for it.
Are those fair and accurate depictions of the injury, of the burn to your thigh?
Yes.
We'd like to offer identification L in evidence.
No objection.
What was pre-marked as L will be received into evidence without objection as defense 5.
Permission.
Yes, sir.
You had to go to the hospital as a result of these injuries to your thigh?
Yes. It was
Okay.
extremely painful.
Is that a depiction of the burn?
Yes.
Is that your thigh?
It's my thigh. Yes.
And your name?
Yes.
All right, I'm showing you composite exhibit for identification K, 4 photographs. Did you look at those, all 4, before commenting? This is a longer story, isn't it? Go ahead and tell.
So, George stabbed me in my leg. I almost bled to death.
All right, well, let's go back and explain what led up to that.
I thought it would be nice to cook a nice steak dinner. We don't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I thought it would be special to make a steak dinner and baked potato and go above the normal whatever's left over in the refrigerator. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and George was drinking the entire time, and on the back porch.
You were drinking as well, were you not?
I was drinking. He was on the back porch while I was in the house and I was cooking. And it was one of those where maybe if I start making dinner now, it will be over at a particular time and we can go to bed at a reasonable time. And I even put it in the bedroom and had a movie set up for us to watch. So it would just kind of be dinner in bed. And then he came upstairs and saw that I had made the steak dinner, and I don't know how to describe how drunk he was, but it definitely was not George. And had him come lay on the bed, sit on the bed, and, you know, put the, I got the dogs out, and I presented him with the steak dinner and sat down and was getting ready to start playing the movie. And he starts being very rude and cursing the steak and finding fault with it. And then, you know, I'm having to encourage him to eat. You know, if you want me to cut it up for you, I will cut it up for you. Did you want some more sour cream for your potato? What can I do to make you happier? And then he started to pull on me and kept saying that, excuse me, that I just want to fuck you on the steak and fuck you on the potatoes. And I took offense to that, and I kept trying to encourage him to eat. I started to eat.
Is this just him really drunk and saying nonsense?
I don't know why he was so angry that day. I don't know if it's because I got steak. I don't know. Most of the time I don't know the reason why. I couldn't take it anymore. Obviously I was not going to be able to eat, so I started to crawl off of the bed to leave, just the bedroom. And he told me again that I'm not going anywhere, and he stabbed me in my leg, and it crunched. You could hear a noise that it made, and blood just started to come out of my leg just like a fountain. So I got off of the bed. He's starting to freak out and grabbed me a towel. I got a wet towel, and I'm sitting here holding the towel, and it's increasingly becoming even more and more saturated by the minute. It's just minutes. So I'm going through towels and towels, and I said, George, I think I need to go to the hospital. This is not stopping to bleed. This is serious. And he got on his knees and begged me, please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. And inevitably, he went and got my car keys and put them around his neck again, and my cell phone. So I was not able to call anyone, and I wasn't able to leave in my car. So I figured I would just go downstairs, and I'm just going to go downstairs. And I had propped my foot up on the glass table that we had, and blood is just everywhere. Blood is everywhere. I can't keep up with the amount of blood, and I'm starting to feel very weak and really weird. And he comes downstairs and he's still begging me, please don't call 911, please don't call 911. I kept telling him, there's something, this is serious, this is something. Because he knew that he would probably get arrested or something bad would happen to him. So I couldn't take him anymore. He was just all over me and just, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding very badly, and he's having me try to console him. And I kept telling him, please, I need to call 911, please. And I said, okay, just give me a moment. And I crawled upstairs to my son's bathroom, which is the furthest bathroom away from everything. And I remember holding onto the sink, and I looked into the mirror and my lips were blue. And I knew I needed help. I needed help. And he came upstairs looking frantic for me, calling my name. And then I turned to him and I said, please, I'm going to die. I've lost a lot of blood. There's something wrong. My lips are blue. Please, we don't have to call an ambulance. If you could just take me, I'll drive whatever I can do, please, to go to the hospital for this. And he said that before anything happens, I had to concoct a story in order for him to not be arrested or be in trouble when we did inevitably get to the hospital. So I'm sitting there with this blood-soaked towel with blue lips, trying to come up with a story of what I can tell them when I go down there so he's not in trouble, and telling him that it's okay. And I came up with the story of that we were sword fighting silly after drinking with our steak knives, and he accidentally punctured my leg. And from there...
How did you get to the hospital?
Originally, he told me to drive, and because of the amount of alcohol that he drank, and I couldn't. So he got into the driver's seat and drove me, and the entire time he's barking at me to make sure that I get the story straight. We're sword fighting, okay? We were drunk,
Did you go to
being
the
silly.
emergency room?
Yes.
All right, and did you get treated there?
Yes. I was bloody, and
All right, let me show you the photograph. Can I show you these?
yes.
All right, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the injury to your leg?
Yes. I had to go to 2 different hospitals for it.
And you lied to medical personnel about how this happened?
Yes, they brought in sheriffs and everything.
Was it consistent with, they brought in sheriffs? Did you have to answer to the law enforcement officers?
Yes,
Did you stick with the story that you and George had agreed?
I did.
Judge, I'd like to offer this positive zip.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as K will be received into evidence without objection as Defendant 6. You may publish, sir.
Thank you. And is this you at the hospital?
Yes.
Is this the stab wound to your leg?
Yes. My foot.
Is this a close-up of the stab wound?
Yes.
And was that, did you hurt your foot?
No, due to the injury, I had other problems with the surgery.
Okay. But you eventually recovered?
Eventually,
Do
yes.
you have a scar to that effect?
I do.
Judge, can you step down and show me?
Mr. J?
Okay.
You may. There's a lock, sir. Out.
All right, I don't know how best to do this, Judge, because we've got this bar.
They can probably see it from there.
Is this the injury here? Looks like there's an indention. All right, I'm showing you identification T. You recognize that photograph?
I do. Yes.
All right. Looks like you've got an injury to your lip and to your face. Do you recall this event?
I was trying to sleep, and
Had y'all been drinking?
I'm not sure. I know that he had been drinking. This was one of the instances where I would go upstairs to try to go to sleep. And
But y'all drank together a lot, did you not?
Sometimes, yes.
But there were times where he wanted to stay up and continue to drink and you wanted to go to bed.
Many times, yes.
You were done, he was not.
Correct.
Was that one of these times?
Yes.
So tell us what happened.
I'm sleeping in the bed, sound asleep, and he comes into the room and grabs me by my hair a lot of the times. And from here, he scratched me from trying to grab me, and then grabbed my hair and pulled me off of the bed, and then raked my face across the carpet. These are carpet burns.
To your lips?
Yes.
What about to the, looks like the eyebrow area?
That's from where he, from grabbing me, scratched me and got a hold of me by my hair.
Why was he mad at you?
Because I wasn't downstairs with him
He wanted you to be drinking with him?
all the time.
All right, I'd like to introduce identification T in evidence.
What was pre-marked as T will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 7.
Oh, permission, Paul.
You may, sir.
All right, you see the injury between the eyes and the injury to the lip,
Yes.
as you described?
Yes, and then the blood going down my eye, yes.
Showing you what has been marked as exhibit for identification, or defense exhibit. You for identification?
Yes,
Can you describe that photograph?
I can.
Go ahead.
This was the first time that I ever called 911. George and I had gone to a bar across the street within walking distance, and at some point, I asked a guy, or he asked me, somehow or another, it was over a cigarette. And he left, and I didn't know where he went, and the bartender said, oh, he left. He took your car and he left. So,
Why would he do that?
well, I found out when I got home, it was because I spoke to another man. And so I paid the tab and I walked home, and he's sitting on the back porch with the handle of vodka, and I was walking on eggshells and terrified and kind of treaded lightly when I came in, and he acted all natural and fine. So I didn't know the reason why that he had just gotten up and left with my car. So then he calls me a whore, and then he calls me a slut, and then he calls me a cunt, and gets up and pushes me. And he pushed me with both of his hands so hard that we have this little area where our washer and dryer is, and there are metal doors that are on it. And he pushed me into the metal door. And then I fell back, and he got his knees on top of me, on my arms here, so I was pinned down, and was starting to strangle me, and hit my head up against the metal closet over and over and over and over and over it again, and calling me a fucking whore, and you're such a slut, and fuck you, and everything. And my tongue was flopping out of my mouth, and I thought I was going to bite my tongue off, and because of the amount of noise I guess my head was making on the metal door, he slid me down and got back on me, and then started to strangle me again. And it was on, we have carpet, but it's like concrete, and I was able to get my arms out from underneath and grab his throat and get him off of me. So I got him off of me and I pushed him off, and he came up and he goes, "You fucking bitch," and he stomped my face. And the next thing I know, I woke up. I obviously
Did you
blacked
get knocked
out.
out?
I'm obviously, I guess, yes. And he was passed out on the floor, and I woke up frantic looking for my phone, and I immediately called 911.
Okay. The police arrived on that incident?
Yes, they did.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the injury you sustained as a result of him kicking you?
Stomping, yes.
It was a stomp?
Stomped.
With his
All I
heel?
saw was his heel.
We ask that this be identification of you be admitted today.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as you will be received without objection is defense 8.
Was that the next day, or is that a few days later?
That's a couple of days later.
And that's the bruising from the kicking of the eye?
Yes.
Now, the police were called, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but let me go through these first. I'm showing you identification V, defense. Could you recognize that? You have to speak up.
Yes.
Can you identify that picture?
Yes.
Is that your leg?
Yes.
And is that was like the injury to your knee?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the injury you sustained to your knee?
Yes.
Do you remember how that happened?
Yes.
Did you tell the jury?
I was trying to get off of the back porch, and he grabbed me and pushed me, and it was a rock or a really sharp piece of mold from him grabbing me and pushing me onto the ground, and I guess I just happened to hit my knee just right on whatever it was.
Were y'all drinking?
Yes.
Why did he push you?
Because I wanted to get off of the back porch.
He wanted to stay out there?
Yes.
He wanted you to be with him? What's the deal with him wanting to be with you all the time?
Insecurity, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you do your best to please him?
And then some, yes.
All right, I'd like to introduce an evidence identification.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as V will be received into evidence without objection is defense 9.
Now, Ms. Boone, were you treated for this, or did you self-treat? Let me show the jury now.
No, that was just, I got the first aid kit that I had for my son, and I just cleaned it up.
You what?
I said I got the first aid kit that I had for my son, and I just cleaned it up and put a Band-Aid on it.
All right, I'm showing you identification W. Defense identification. You recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
This is a photograph of my arm.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the arm with some type of injury?
Yes.
Do you remember this event?
Multiple times, yes.
Well, I'm talking about this isolated event where this photograph was taken, the injury you sustained.
Yep.
Who injured your arm?
Jorge Torres.
You remember this event?
Yes.
Did you tell the jury about it?
This was one of the instances where I would try to pull away from him, and I don't know how my arm started to do this, but from him pulling from this way, how hard he would pull, with me trying to struggle to get away from him, it would leave these bloody under the skin splotches.
So he wouldn't hit you sometimes, he would just grab you and pull you.
Yes, from me trying to pull away from him, that's the point of it doing this, from me pulling away from him.
Now, this is one of the many times y'all were both intoxicated?
I mean, I can't say for sure that, yes, but whenever it would happen, yes, we would be drinking.
Identification W in evidence.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as W will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 10. You may, sir.
All right, it doesn't look like a wound or anything.
Objection to commentary.
Sustained.
Tell me, I'm sorry, tell me, you said it's just from the grip, him losing his grip?
Yes, it would be from me pulling away from him, and whatever under the skin it was that it was disturbed from the amount of pressure of him holding and then pulling from me would create those on my arms.
Okay. I'm going to show you Defense Exhibit X for identification.
Yes.
And what is that a picture of?
This is a picture of my ear, the side of my head.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction
Yes.
of the injury you sustained by Jorge Torres?
Yes.
Do you remember this event?
Yes.
Were you drinking?
I at the time was not drinking.
On this event, you had not consumed any alcohol.
I mean, I may have earlier. This was another, I was in the bed trying to sleep.
Where was George?
Downstairs drinking.
All right, and so you were wanting to go to bed, and he wanted you to stay down there with him?
Yes, I was in the bed.
All right, tell the jury what happened on this event.
I believe this was the instant where I was in the bed and I used to barricade the door with our dresser.
Why didn't you just lock it?
All of the locks were broken in my home.
Why?
They were from George taking them in, including my son's. At one point I could seek refuge in my son's room, but he broke that one as well.
Well, tell me, explain how that happens. Tell the jury. We can't read your mind.
George wants me, which he has told me numerous times, that I am to be with him at all times and doesn't like to be apart from me or away from me. So whenever it was even just to go to the bathroom sometimes, he would go with me. And you have to understand, I have a 2-story, 900 square foot townhome, so there's not many places to go. So it just happened to be that it would be upstairs or downstairs, or I'd be in a particular room or not. So inevitably.
Did you want some time away?
Yes, I did. Even if it were just him upstairs or me downstairs or vice versa. So I rarely got to sleep. This was one of the instances because I had barricaded the door with our, 200-pound dresser that we had. And then I had my nightstand barricaded up against the bed, to where it was even more difficult from the prior times of him breaking in. And he would, I don't know how he would ever do it, but he would get himself in through the crack of the door that he would be able to wedge the dresser and the nightstand. And he pulled me out of the bed and told me I was going to die. And I believe it's this incident, and punched me and...
Punched you in the side of the head?
Yes, in
Was
my
it-
temple and everything.
Was it an open fist or a closed fist, or do you know?
It was fully closed.
Like identification X introduced in evidence.
What was pre-marked as X will be received without objection as Defense Exhibit 11.
Part I'm showing you this exhibit. That's you?
Yes.
Did you get any treatment for that? Medical treatment?
I know the police came, but I don't remember. I remember it hurt for a good solid 2 weeks after that.
Was this one of the incidents where the police were called?
Yes.
Now, do you recognize this photograph, which is identification Y?
Yes.
Was that the date of the incident? The date of this event?
No, it happened prior. But this picture that was taken of the,
This picture was taken, would have been taken February 24th of 2020?
yes,
And do you recognize that as your close-up facial?
yes,
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how your face looked on February 23rd of 2020?
yes.
What's the significance of this picture?
Again, because I was sleeping, George was upset with me and came in with a metal curtain rod and bent it and snapped it in half and then crunched me in the forehead with it. And it started to beat the furniture that was in the bedroom. This is probably a good month before or after it had happened, before I really do believe that I should have gotten stitches, but I was not allowed to go to the hospital.
Judge, I'd like identification Y introduced into evidence.
It was a gash.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as Y will be received into evidence without objection as defense 12.
Is that the same curtain rod that you mentioned in the 2-hour interrogation video?
Which they didn't take, yes.
This was photographs that were taken, I guess it would have been the crime scene? Was it the crime scene investigator that came out and took photographs?
I don't remember who it was, but yes, someone did on the day of the incident.
Was it different from the extraction, the phone extraction expert? Was it somebody different?
I think.
But isn't this wound right here?
Yes, and remember, that's a month later.
And then on that same date, same time, they took this photograph as well, which is identification R.
Yes.
All right, and what does that do?
I believe it's from holding the baseball bat, and
Is that an injury to your hand?
it's a bruise.
Was that taken, February 23rd, 2020, when the investigators came out,
February 24th, I believe.
February 24th? Okay. I'd like to introduce identification R to the evidence.
What was pre-marked as defense R will be received into evidence without objection as defense 13.
Judge, can I publish?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is not a great photograph, copy of the copy. But February 24th of 2020, is that what you were wearing? Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. And there's some discoloration up here of your palm. You see that?
I do.
Is that from you jabbing him with a baseball bat?
Sustained.
Do you know how you suffered that injury?
I believe it's from holding the baseball bat.
When you poked him with it?
Yes, trying to get his hand back in.
I'm showing you defense identification N. Just like 5 photographs. Can you look at those? See if you recognize them. It's in now. So.
Yes.
And are those fair and accurate depictions
Yes.
as a composite of the events that occurred in relation to George Torres and your TV?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Are those stills of a videotape that you took?
Yes.
And is that videotape, was it on your phone?
Yes.
So when law enforcement seized the phone, they would have had access to this video?
I believe so, yes.
And tell me about it.
Lucas liked to watch cartoons and play video games on the big screen, this is the big screen, and I would have to call Brian to come over sometimes to help me figure out the Fire Stick and whatever platform or whatever it was that Lucas was trying to view his shows and video games on. And I don't remember how George found out that Brian had come over. I believe because it was actually fixed and he knew that I didn't know how to do it. Found out that Brian had come over to fix it, and
Was he jealous of Brian?
I don't know if he was jealous of Brian. I think that he had a fear that I somehow would go back to Brian. So I think by Brian helping me with things for Lucas, he just didn't want him to be interacting with me at all.
So Lucas wasn't over here this day, was he?
No.
Brian wasn't over here this day.
He may have been, I can't remember when he actually fixed the television for Lucas.
But y'all were drinking this day.
I know he was for a fact, yes.
Chances are you were.
Probably so, yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
So how did it end up badly?
He accused me of sucking Brian's dick and told me that he was going to break my face with the bat, and that he was going to make me unrecognizable to my son with the bat, and then told me that he's going to destroy my fucking television, and then I was going to remove it from the apartment. And if I didn't, I was going to be, again, unrecognizable to my son.
So did he grab the bat?
Absolutely, he already had that in his hand, and he told me that I had to videotape it.
Did you videotape it voluntarily? All right, but there is a video, but I'm going to go ahead and ask Judge if I could introduce this identification of these 5 photographs into evidence.
No objection.
Was it O or N?
I have O being a composite with 5 photos, and I have as a single photo.
We're moving in O, okay. All right, what was pre-marked as O will be received into evidence without objection as defense 14.
All right, so these are some stills from the video. This was George, that particular day, holding the bat.
You guys telling me that I'm going to take the television out once he destroys it.
He wanted you to take the television out?
That or I was going to help him, but either way, I was taking it apart and removing it.
And what is this picture of?
In the process of him destroying my television.
While you're videotaping?
Correct.
Is that the result?
No. After that, he ripped it off of the TV stand.
Did you later pass out?
Yep, like he usually does.
What's he drinking there?
I don't know. Vodka or something, I'm sure.
I'm showing you identification N. See if you recognize that.
It's my living room in the stairwell.
All right, was that a photograph taken by a crime scene?
Correct.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of your living room and stairwell?
Yes.
And I'm going to try to introduce this as identification 9 as an exhibit.
No.
It's pre-marked as M, correct?
It's got N.
N, I apologize. What was pre-marked as N will be received into evidence without objection as defendant's 15.
Can you tell us a little bit about this room?
This is my living room. This wall that we have over here with the hearts, that's where we would display all of our artwork. We were in the process of taking it down to add more, so he could continue to be entertained. The bookshelf over here is my son's bookshelf with all of his toys and little guns and musical instruments. He's got his little karaoke machine down here, his guitar. The stand right here with the red bucket on it, that was the television stand. And then my back porch area and the dog bed here.
And then most likely in front of the bookshelf at the foot of the stairs is that a doggy?
It's a baby gate, but my dogs would wander upstairs sometimes and go to the bathroom sometimes when we couldn't get them out. So I would, at nighttime, or whenever we weren't home, make sure that they didn't go upstairs. And plus Penny was blind.
There's an allegation that you pushed George down the stairs?
Apparently.
Or got him in the suitcase upstairs and pushed him down the stairs?
Supposedly.
Did that occur?
Absolutely not.
Is that bookshelf disturbed in any way?
No, nor the plant next to it.
I'm showing you composite, 2 photographs, identification M. Did you look at those 2 and see if you recognize them?
Yes, this is me sitting on the back porch with my dogs. And as you can see that we are both drinking.
All right, who's taking the picture?
I'm guessing George's, or maybe it's one that Lucas, no, Lucas wasn't over here, so it had to be George.
How can you tell y'all are drinking?
Because there's a cup here and then he has a beer.
All right. And there's 2 dogs, there's one sitting next to you. Who's that?
That's Penny, she's the blind dog. I used to have to pick her up to put her somewhere so she would stay there because she was unfamiliar with the area, especially since we moved from my marital home to the townhome. So most of the time Penny would be close or next to me.
Who's next to the film?
This is little guard dog Tess. She was the deaf dog. And this is the fence here.
Well, I'll show them that.
Okay, but this is Tess, and then this is deaf, blind. Penny and Tess.
All right, and then the second one.
This is Tess on the back porch, taking a nap. She was never far from me.
All right, when George was sober, how did he treat the dogs?
Nice. I don't know if he was a pet person, but I mean, he was nice. If I needed him to feed them, he would feed them.
Were there times when George was drinking where he would threaten to harm the dogs?
All the time.
All right, you're going to have to tell the jury specifically.
One of the worst threats was Penny being blind. He would actually leave the gate open in the back. He wouldn't threaten me to do it. He would actually do it on nights that I had to go up to sleep or I fled the night before or something. and would tell me that he hoped that I would come back and find her bloated body dead in the pond across the way from our townhome. And Tess was notorious if I wasn't there to go look for me, and would say that he would hope that I would have to scrape up her dead body from the street that was out in front of our apartment complex.
Why was George upset with you? Why was he threatening to harm the dog?
Anything that he could get to try to have some type of hold over me.
Control?
And he knew I loved my dogs very much, especially that they were handicapped.
Were they afraid of him?
Yes. Penny would hear his voice and instantly go underneath the dining room table that we had. Tess was always fractious and very, very quick with his movements, but she was never far away. They never showed their teeth, they never growled. Tess would occasionally bark, but it was very rare. And he used to kick them and just...
For what reason would he kick them?
Penny would try to find me because she's blind.
Speculating in the mind of the dog.
Sustained.
I'd like to move identification M in the evidence.
Any objection? Was pre-marked as M will be received into evidence without objection as defense 16.
All right. Can you describe this for the jury?
This is again is our back porch, and this is the fence that I made for the dogs to have a little bit extra space. Penny is next to me. She's the blind dog, and then Tess is down here guarding the gate.
Are these fake rabbits? Is that
Yes.
in here?
I used to call my son when he was a baby. He was my bunny rabbit.
Sexually relevant.
Overruled.
He was my bunny rabbit, so I used to collect bunny rabbits, and so I have rabbits here and there throughout my house and in my little garden area.
All right, this is the alcohol you are consuming,
Yes.
and this is a close-up of which one?
This is Tess. She's the deaf dog.
How old were these dogs at that time, 2020?
Gosh, maybe 9, maybe 10.
We approach.
Yes. All right, members of the jury, it's 4:03. By show of hands, would you like to take an afternoon break at this point in time? Okay, court sees no hands. We may have to work also a little bit past 5 o'clock, maybe going to between 5:45 and 6 this evening. I know juror third from the right, you may have to make a phone call as to that. Does anyone have any concerns about working a little bit later today till 6 o'clock? If you have those concerns, please raise your hand at this time. All right, court sees no hands. Ma'am, are you in a position to step out to see if you can get assistance with childcare, or is that not an option for today?
I'm actually all set for today. She's already taken them up.
You are? Okay. All right. Excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. With that, Mr. Owens, you may continue.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I think one of the jurors raised their hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, juror fifth from the right.
Are we going to get a break before the 5:45 mark? Because if not, then yes, I would like a break now.
Then I tell you what, let's go ahead and take it at this time. We'll give you all a 15-minute recess. It's 4:04. Hang on. Don't leave yet. I got to tell you a couple things. It's 4:04. We'll see you back here at 4:20. Same instruction as before. Please don't conduct any independent investigation or research as the person, places, things, or charge involved, and don't have any discussions amongst yourselves or anyone else. We'll see you in a couple minutes. Thank you very much.
Jury exiting.
Y'all can be seated. Thank you. if Ms. Boone needs to use the facilities, we might as well take advantage of that at this time. All right, court will be in recess till 4:20. Thank you. All right, we're back on the record. Case number 2020 CF 2603, State of Florida versus Sarah Boone. State.
Dave Ketchner on behalf of the state. William J. for the state.
Defense.
James Owens for Ms. Boone.
Tommy Henderson for Sarah Boone.
Kevin Beck on behalf of Sarah Boone.
All right. Ms. Boone, let's go ahead and bring you back up to the witness stand, please.
Judge, we're going to try to go with 6 today.
Yes, sir, that's the plan.
As much as it takes, I mean, it's just depends on how it goes when we get back in. You said about 20, so I guess.
All right, we're ready to bring back in our jury.
Yes?
All right, let's do it.
Oh, Judge.
Hold on.
Oh, she's up there. I'm sorry. I thought we lost.
Jury entering.
State, do you recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? All right, y'all can be seated. Thank you. Again, members of the jury, if you could. Oh, wait. Okay. Can the parties approach for a moment? All right, members of the jury, again, if you could just raise your hands to confirm that you complied with the court's instructions during the last break. All right, record reflect all hands have been raised. All right, with that, Mr. Owens, you may continue your inquiry, sir.
Just based on the court statements, identification A, I'd like to, this is one of the photographs that we introduced. Is this injury to your ear?
Yes.
And then this is your living room. This is identification C, the blow up.
Yes.
Identification D. TV. Identification E. Is that your arm?
Yes.
Identification F. Is that your knife wound? Identification G. Is this the curtain rod?
Yes.
Identification H. This is the eye. Identification I. See your face shot
Yes.
with the lip and the eyebrow. Identification B, and this is the back patio with the dogs.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna bounce a little bit, Ms. Boone. Let me go back to the night earlier in the evening when I think y'all may have been out on the back patio and you had suggested to George to call the children, but then I think, did he call his brother or his brother called George? Do you remember?
George called his brother.
Okay. And you made a statement about tell him something. Explain that to the jury.
I told him to tell his brother about you choking me the other day. This is a separate choking incident. We had been drinking, and I wanted George to tell him, but he didn't tell him, so I said it in the background, so he would be aware.
What did you tell him?
Tell him why you choked me, or that you choked me.
Okay. Now, you heard the testimony of the two neighbors, the boys that lived next to you,
Yes,
and you heard that they were actually questioned. I think the audio, they were audio interviewed. You heard from Detective Copsell. I think it was a couple of days later on the 25th of February, or 27th of February.
yes,
And you heard their testimony earlier this week,
yes,
where they hear a kind of a thumping sound starting at the top of the steps, ending at the bottom.
yes,
Have they got the night wrong?
yes.
So explain to the jury that.
So it was the night before. Again, I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night with the door barricaded, he came in and ripped me out of the bed. And first got me with one hand, and then got both hands and pulled me completely off of the bed. And then, like a caveman, had my hair like this and was going down the stairwell, taking me with him to come downstairs so I could sit and drink with him.
Do you believe that's the noise that the two neighbor boys heard,
I absolutely do.
and it was just the night before?
Correct.
Now, some of the time when this abuse occurred, you called the police,
Yes,
and other times the police were not called.
correct.
I want to refer to you the first time, I believe, you mentioned the 911 call. I believe that was July 25th of 2018.
Yes,
And that was the incident in which George had kicked you in the eye,
stomped me, yes.
stomped you in the eye. And you had grabbed his neck.
Yes, I was able to get my arms out from him pinning me down with his knees and grab his neck.
So law enforcement came and investigated,
Yes,
and both of you were arrested.
correct.
Do you recall asking the officer when you were arrested Why am I being arrested?
Many times, yes.
You recall asking the officer, why am I being arrested?
Yes.
And do you recall making any other statements to law enforcement as to why you did what you did to George?
That was the first time ever that I actually officially fought back.
Did you tell the officer that you were fighting back?
Yes, because I was complete shock that I was getting arrested because of it.
Now, on the 2-minute video, the suitcase video, you mentioned to him, I think you said something, I can't breathe. He said, I can't breathe, and you said, that's how I feel when you're choking me. Were you referring to an isolated incident of the night before, 2 nights before, or whatever, or were you referring to in general?
In general, the more than 2 or 3, 4 times that he had done it.
Okay. And then the part about cheating, he didn't physically cheat on you.
No, he did not.
Okay. And just, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but what are you referring to there?
George was, I believe, addicted to pornography, and a lot of that would be found on my phone from him supposedly wanting to call up job interviews. And as a solution, I sat him down and I explained to him, to me, that's you visualizing yourself with someone else, or at least having a pleasurable moment with someone else or watching other people. And to me, I told him that I considered that cheating on me.
Okay. And so he would download that on your phone?
Yes.
More continuing coverage in the suitcase murder. The Trial of Sarah Boone is on the way. From the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. Press subscribe now.